6'3" tall, and then I met Myles, and he says he's 6'5", and I shortened that down to like 6 foot even on my end. Doesn't make sense anymore. Appreciate you being here. If you guys don't know, Myles is a full-time resident in our area now. Has a brand new baby girl in our area now. So 2-year-old. Let's call it brand new. So congrats on that. But so Myles, like we've got a room full of middle schoolers up to sophomore year, which is like recruiting year for a lot of them. So I thought it'd be fun to take us back to Myles Jones, middle school up to sophomore year, lacrosse. Were you like laying in bed dreaming of lacrosse? Like what was that like for Myles Jones during that period?
Yeah, actually, I first started playing lacrosse when I was in middle school, so I was in 6th grade when I first started playing, and when I first started playing, I was not great, and that's a compliment to how good of a lacrosse player I was in 6th grade. But the reason why I actually started playing was because a lot of my friends who I played football and basketball with, they actually also played lacrosse in the spring, and I just ended up playing more basketball because my uncle played division basketball, my dad played basketball, and that was just a sport that I grew up, loving. It was the first sport I played, as a young child. So I just played more basketball with all my friends, but I did what they did during the spring. So they asked me to play lacrosse, and I was in middle school, and I grew up on Long Island, so lacrosse is, super big. And even with that being said, I didn't know much about lacrosse. So I signed up, like every kid, you go through the process of picking out your first set of pads, getting your stick together, you're trying to figure out what position you're gonna play. I started off playing defense, so I quickly grew to love lacrosse because I was really bad, so I spent a lot of time playing lacrosse. So naturally, being that I spent a lot of time and out in the yard, breaking windows and throwing the ball against the house, which I probably shouldn't have been doing, but my love for the game grew with my lack of ability to play at the level that the guys were playing at when I first started playing. So, being one of the better football and basketball players on my team, and like I said, a lot of the guys that I played with, they played on my basketball football team. They knew me as a great athlete, in middle school, for what that's worth. It drove me to be a better lacrosse player because I didn't want to, kind of diminish what they thought of me as an athlete because of the way I played lacrosse. So I was a really driven, kid in middle school. Started playing lacrosse at defense, went to attack for kind of half a year, and then moved to midfield where I've been playing midfield for quite some time. So, that's kind of my lacrosse story in middle school. When I got to high school, lacrosse actually picked up, and that's when I really fell in love with the game, and that's when I kind of chose that I was going to go play lacrosse at the next level. I got recruited to play football, Division I, basketball, Division I, but there was something about lacrosse that I really enjoyed that drove me to want to, make that decision to play that sport, and I don't regret that decision whatsoever.
So talk about that. Like, when did? Because you told me you had opportunity in football and probably whatever you were doing, but was there something? Was it the attention you were getting through the recruiting process that drove you to that, or go ahead and take that question and tell us. A lot of these kids are coming into that time when they're trying to send out tapes. They're sending out video. It's that season of life, right? So was it because you started getting attention that you started falling more in love with lacrosse? And tell them about that process, what that was like for you.
So when I was a freshman, this is kind of where my recruiting story took off. I was a freshman, and growing up on Long Island, it was always a goal of any athlete, no matter what the sport was, to play in the Empire State Games, which was our version of the New York State Olympics. So we broke the entire state up into New York City, Long Island, you had Adirondack, you had Western New York, Central New York, and there's another part of New York, I'm forgetting. But what we did was, if you made that team, you competed in this Olympic-style event, which was very similar to Olympics, where we had our full outfits on, we walked, we held our portion of New York's flag up, and it was a really big deal. And I remember that was a big goal of mine to play on that team as a freshman. I made it to the top 50 game, and I got cut, right? So my biggest, my next motivator was I wanted to make that team my sophomore year. But in the midst of that, I was mistaken for a sophomore because of my size. And I was invited to go to Duke's sophomore day and Carolina's sophomore day just based off my performance in that tryout. And that kind of set the standard for me. I was like, hey, listen, I'm getting recruited by Duke and North Carolina as a freshman in high school. That's really cool. So obviously I grew up, big basketball fan. Like I told you, that was the first sport I played when I started my athletic career, and everybody wanted to be Michael Jordan, these different guys. And so when I got the chance to walk on Carolina's campus, that kind of set in my mind that I wanted to be a lacrosse player. If any coach felt that my skills were good enough to warrant their attention, that was pretty exciting for me as a young kid. Now when it comes to recruiting, I took my time. I think the recruiting landscape has changed over so many years. I remember there were guys committing in middle school, which was kind of crazy around the Brendan O'Neill era of recruiting. They changed it back, so I know that September 1st is a really big day where phones are ringing and you're reaching out to coaches and you're talking to some of these people that could be in charge of the future on the phone for the very first time. So. My biggest piece of advice to you, especially parents, when it comes to picking college, I know it can get super overwhelming, and obviously there are a lot of moving parts when it comes to, scholarship money, distance you're traveling away from home, fit in terms of when your child may think they want to study. So my thing is take your time with all of that. It's super important that you make the right decision. Obviously, you guys have a lot more opportunity to switch, but at the time when I was getting recruited, it was super focused on the things that move the needle for you specifically. Obviously, playing is super important. You want to go to a place where your skill level matches that and you can play. School is super important. Not everybody's going to be a professional athlete, right? So you want that piece of paper that's going to, open doors for you, the connections that open doors for you, that is super important about where you go to school. So while lacrosse sports is a super important piece and it will become a predominant part of your life when you get to college, really sit down and be honest and open with your family about what you want in your future. You'll be able to line that up with whatever school is that you have options for, and you'll be able to narrow it down. And I think one thing that I also believe is that when you get onto campus and you go to a school for the first time, you'll feel in your heart that you belong somewhere, right? You can, if you get kind of iffy feelings and you feel like it's a stretch and it's far away from home and all the emotions that you start to feel when you get on campus, those are the ones you're going to feel later in life as well. So make sure you really, think with the heart, think with the mind, and take your time on any recruiting process.
So talk about that. Other piece of that outside of the physical stuff is the academic stuff. For you to be getting looks from Duke and Carolina and eventually going to Duke. And then talk about what you were thinking through high school, what that looked like for you, how important that was, and then how do you marry a curriculum like Duke with also playing D1 lacrosse? Like, what does that day in the life balance look like so they get an understanding of how that academic side plays into this?
So the most important thing that I think about when my maturation from, like I said, playing in that tryout and getting looked at by Duke and what my high school career ended up turning out to be, full transparency, I wasn't the biggest, school person. And when I got some, attention from some of these really good schools, I was looking to potentially go to Princeton. It was close to home, and Ivy League. When you get this paper and you see all these Ivy League names on it, you start to believe that you can actually achieve those things. So I honestly made a full 180 when it came to school. I started paying a lot more attention to my grades. And luckily, it was early on in my career, my high school career, where it was. Once I learned how to work hard and learned what worked for me in terms of studying and preparation in the classroom, that set me up for success. Junior, senior year, one thing I always tell people is that when it comes to colleges, you need to make sure that you are bulletproof in terms of academics. You shouldn't give any university, any college, a reason to say no about you when you put your resume in front of them. So, you are in full control of academics. It's all effort, no matter what level it is, whether it's high school, college, master's. If you want to achieve something, it's all effort. It's all desire. It's all putting the right foot forward. It's all being prepared. It's having a schedule. It's managing your time. So when it comes to school, for me, I 100% did a full 180 when I started getting attention from some of the top schools in the country, and I realized what kind of resume I wanted to build in order to be able to step foot on any of those campuses. Now, when I was at Duke, you quickly learn what is for you. I'm not gonna lie, I took a poli-sci class, and I realized how smart kids are at Duke when there were kids raising their hands and quoting Abraham Lincoln quotes as answers to questions that the teacher was asking. I quickly found out that political science probably wasn't for me. I knew I liked business, I knew I liked math, I knew I was somebody who grew up in New York, so investment banking was something that I thought I might like. I knew there's a pretty good pipeline for two blue devils to work on Wall Street, so I followed that path, and I quickly found out that I really just enjoyed marketing, business, and anything client facing. So I was able to figure out what it was I wanted to study in terms of classes. But being honest with you, when you're an athlete at any university, they take care of you. You have help when you need it. I remember I took a 300 level Spanish class. I didn't want to take Spanish too many semesters at Duke, and I heard that you take a 300 level class, you can get out and take a language. I went for it, and my head was spinning when I walked in the door and they spoke nothing but Spanish as soon as they closed it. So, I needed help. I got a tutor the very next day, and that person was amazing for me, helped me get through Spanish for that semester. And that's just the level of care you get from the university when it comes to being a student athlete. So anything you set your mind to, you're going to have help. Anything you set your mind to and deliver that desire, you're going to be able to accomplish at any level of academics.
So when you get to a place like Duke, everybody that walks on that place has been the best player where they're from. They've been all-state, most likely. They've all been leader of whatever team they've been on. And so when you get that many in a room, and then you have, you're a leader whenever you walk in at this point in your career, right? But when you think about, when you first walk in the room and you meet some of those leaders, what are those characteristics of when you get, for lack of a better word, a bunch of alphas in one room, and then all of a sudden you got a leader amongst those? That's a little different deal, right? So when they walk in, I see y'all getting it's that alpha. So when you walk into a room like that, what stands out and makes that leader when you walk into it?
So I remember my freshman year, we had 3 midfielders that ended up being All-Americans, but they were guys that played multiple sports, played basketball, played football, so I kind of fit the same general mold as them, played the game athletically the same way. I remember Dave Lawson, he's from Massachusetts. He was one of those guys that when he walked in the room, he just demanded respect. Not by anything he said, not by anything he did, he just had that presence, and when I walked into the room, I was like, okay, I know that guy's a senior. Now, obviously, I've met him before then on visits and whatnot, but when I got to a setting in which I'm on the same team as him, not some high school kid who's crossing his fingers trying to get a Duke, I was able to see what it was like to be a leader. A funny story, I think that the team in 2012 didn't do too well, and Coach Janowski basically took the locker room away from the team. So when he took the locker room away, he took away all of our laundry and everything. So he basically forced the seniors who were seniors there on first ball to take care of the team. So those guys were doing our laundry, picking us up for practice before the buses ran because we were practicing super early. We had no logos on our helmets. They took care of all of our gear, and just the overall level of care those guys brought to the team, and that's what it means to be a senior. Now, when you're a freshman, you walk on the campus, and you should be gravitating towards those guys because I just talked to a kid who's a New Hampshire kid who wants to go to midfielder, and I was kind of recalling some of these stories about times that I shared with Dave Lawson, Jake Chapuka, some of these guys that were seniors, especially playing the same position as me. I gravitated towards those guys because they just spent 3.5 years doing exactly what I'm about to go through. So just being around those guys and understanding the culture from the top down is something that will be super special for you guys. The locker room is going to be, an awesome place, especially when you're playing in college, because you're going to battle each and every day, competing each and every day, lifting, running. You guys are going to class together. You guys are in study hall together. You guys are, doing everything you guys do in the fall and, scrimmaging. You get really close to your team. And for me, I got close to those seniors that, they picked us up when we needed it. They did everything that coach asked and more. They were an extension of the coaches. And when you're a freshman, you're there to learn. You're going to learn a lot about your team's culture. You're going to learn a lot about what it means to be a lacrosse player, whatever school you go to. Like at Duke, we call it being a Duke man. And that meant something to us because we carried ourselves a certain way, and that was something that was led and shown by the seniors we had each and every year. It was a special thing to be a senior. Each year, a new class stepped up and they were the top class. They treated the team a little bit differently, and that was something that Coach Nasty made sure was a unanimous thing amongst our team each year.
So we'll kind of end with this to kind of wrap this portion, and then we'll see if anybody's got any questions. I think when people see you on TV, your success, I think the common thing is to assume it was always pretty easy. Like, you're an incredible athlete, probably breezed through stuff and just kind of walked through it. But you mentioned several times tonight you've been 9th grade in middle school, got cut in 9th grade from some team you were trying to get on. So what would you say, to kind of follow up on that? Like, to let them know it's not easy, but like, what do you think has been, throughout your lacrosse career, what do you think that biggest adversity's been that kind of pushed you forward, that got you to where you are now, that kind of keeps you going with all this new crop of new wave of college kids coming in each year?
Yeah, that's a great question. One of my favorite stories to tell is when I was a freshman, we won the national championship, and like I said, we had those 3 midfielders that were seniors, they graduated. So coming into the next year, the top midfielders were me as a sophomore, another guy, Deemer Class, who was one of my classmates, also a sophomore, and we had a converted attackman who moved from left attack to midfield with us. So I don't know that people really thought that we were going to be that good. Having 2 sophomores and a converted midfielder as your first midfield line. And I remember Inside the Cross. I'm not sure if you guys read Inside the Cross anymore. Still a pretty big thing. So Inside the Cross is to rank the top midfield units and attack units and all. And obviously, used to cover the sport, right? So I remember when I was in class and Deemer was in my class too. They came out with that article and I had sent it over to them, and I saw them reading it, and they left us off. They ranked a bunch of different schools, Virginia, Syracuse, XYZ, and Duke was left off that list. So, that motivated me a lot. I thought that I got a taste of what it was like to win a national championship. I saw what it was like to have success. So I was like, yeah, it's very easy to want to be back there. So my sophomore year, fall went through. We worked really hard. Came back in January, ready to go, ready to start the 2014 season. And I was working really hard. Coach could tell I was like, just probably was going a little harder than I ever used to, and he kind of wanted to know what was the reasoning. And without telling him that I was reading what people were writing about us, I said I'm a little more motivated this year than ever. Just kind of keep him aside. And then I had a lot of high hopes for myself early on in my sophomore year, and to be honest, I wasn't playing all that well. I had 13 points in 9 games, and I can remember, like it was yesterday, my coach texted me and said, "Hey man, you got 13 points in 9 games," and didn't say much after that because he knew what kind of guy I was. He knew that he didn't have to say much to me in order to motivate me. So I remember that was when I really learned a very valuable lesson about myself as a young man. I started shooting a little bit more. 30 minutes before practice, 30 minutes after practice, and while 30 minutes doesn't seem like it's a lot, you shoot an extra hour a day, 5 days a week, you're probably gonna get a little better, right? So, I was doing that for about 3-4 weeks, and scored maybe an extra goal here and there. It wasn't really up to the standard that I really wanted to play at, especially if I thought that we were going to go back to the national championship and potentially have a chance to win that. I needed to step up. So I remember I was kind of sitting down in my dorm room, and I was thinking, one of two things. I'm at Duke University. I can either just focus on my schoolwork and continue to work just as hard as I am, or dial it back because it just wasn't really working for me. Or I can continue to put in the work where I was shooting an extra hour a day for 5 days, and I chose the latter just because I had a lot of drive as a young man. And I remember we played Virginia on a Friday night at Clockner at the University of Virginia, and I felt all the work that I put in finally came to fruition. The first Friday game I hit a left young run down the alley, and that was something I really wanted to improve on, was being able to shoot with both hands. I went on to have probably one of the best games of my career to date, and then I think I said 13 points in 9 games. We ended up playing 10 more games after that, and I ended the season with 63 points. I scored 50 points in 9 games. So I ended up playing really well, and it was that crossroads where it was like, hey, listen, do I dial back the hard work, or do I keep my foot on the gas pedal? And I'm really glad that I did, because I think that I've learned a lot about myself. I've learned a lot about what it means to work hard. And, results don't always come. The instant gratification would have been nice, but being able to continue to, work at it for weeks and weeks on end, and then finally see the fruits of my labor, I've carried that with me throughout my entire career, and really anything I do. I think that's not just a sports lesson, but more so a life lesson. So when I, suit up, this is it's my 9th pro season, going into my decade year next year. So when I suit up and playing against some of these young guys coming out of college, I would go back to that lesson I learned about myself, where I continued to work and understood the benefits of really putting your head down and grinding at what you want. So that's why I talk to you guys about desire and wanting to do well in school, wanting to be a great athlete, wanting to be successful. I learned that about myself, where I just kept my foot on the gas pedal. I didn't let up. I didn't let the success not being there right away deter me from continuing to work.
That's perfect. So one additional follow-up, just real quick on that piece. Yourself, Brendan O'Neill, there's practice and then there's extra. Can you help these ladies and these guys understand how much extra work outside of all the other work that's required actually you have to put in to get to that spot?
I would tell people that team practice, the practice when you guys get together, is for the team. The coaches aren't going to worry about you improving necessarily by shooting in practice and the drills that you guys do. That's for the team. The practice away from practice is for the individual. Like I said, 30 minutes before practice, guys came out and I did more shooting with the team as we came out, and then 30 minutes after practice, did more shooting. And I felt that the time away from the team practice is where confidence is gained. And we always, other athletes always talk about how confidence is just preparation. If you prepare really well, you're going to be confident in what you're doing. If you don't prepare really well, you're kind of winging it and going out there just hoping that you run the ball out of goalie a few times, it's not going to work for you. So I always felt that my extreme confidence when I'm on the field, that it's very apparent, comes from the work that I put in. If I don't put in the work, I don't walk out on the field, with the swagger that I need in order to be successful. That comes from me, shooting 100 shots a day for 3 days straight, and understanding that, this is, almost second nature to me now, where I can just go out there and do my thing. So my confidence came from preparation, and it's the practice that makes you the player you want to be.
Thank you, sir. Does anybody have any questions they would like to ask Myles that we did not cover tonight? Oh, we got a hand back here. I'm going to do this. I'm walking to you. This is how are you, sir? Tell us where you're from.
My name is Rocky Reed. I'm from here, actually. My wife is here. My question, thank you for being here. Distractions. Academics and the pursuit of sports excellence in high school and especially in college present can present lots of distractions. How do you deal with that?
So, obviously college is a little bit different because, you're away from your parents, you're now an adult, and you can make your own decisions on whether you go to class, whether you go out, whether you go out 2, 3 nights in a row, 4 nights in a row, don't go to class. It's all on you, right? So you gotta understand that when you make it to that point in your life, your parents have sacrificed a lot of time, money, and effort in order for you to get there. So one thing I always, thought about when I was at, Duke University, because I'm a very social person. I was cool with the girls in sororities, guys in fraternities, cool with the basketball players, cool with other sports. So it could be very easy for me to get caught up in all the girls going out on Wednesday night and we have practice Thursday morning. People going out on Thursday night and we have practice on Friday. It was a team culture thing for us to really want to be locked in Monday through Friday, and enjoy Friday night and enjoy Saturday. And when Sunday came around, we actually used to shoot all the time. That was our, get well exercise. But there are going to be a lot of things that are thrown at you in terms of your social life. You want to hang out with friends. You're going to want to go to events. You're going to want to do extracurricular activities. But I promise you, I'm 31 years old. You will have plenty of life to do extracurricular activities and plenty of time to do whatever it is you want to do when you graduate. But I promise you, the time that I spent in college feels like it lasted all of 6 months. And it happens fast, and as long as you can keep your head focused and make sure you keep the main thing, whether that's winning, getting good education, being able to meet people that you go to school with in order to build connections for the future. I think that's the most important thing. As long as you keep that in the main focus and have your fun here and there, there's going to be plenty of fun to be had while focusing on your goals. So I think for me, when I was in college, I just tried to make sure I was busy a lot. Naturally, I was a very motivated, focused person, so I didn't really deviate off the path. But you're going to meet people, you're going to want to hang out with them. Trust me, there's 24 hours in a day, especially in college, where you can go to class for 3 hours a day, and you can sleep for 8 hours a day, play across 3 hours. There's a lot of time where you can focus on getting work done and also being social. I promise you, you can get it all done.
Anybody else? What you got to eat?
If you went back to high school right now, how many points do you think you could score in a game?
So, me right now, going back to high school.
Yeah.
Where am I playing high school? New York, South Bootcamp. Well, I mean, when I was in college, as a senior, I scored 11 points against Carolina on a Friday night, and I scored 10 points in that pro game. So, I guess double one of those. I don't know if I can get to 50, I'd probably get tired. But I would probably say 20. 20's fine. Probably that 10 and 10.
Great question. That's one everybody's thinking, but nobody will ask. So thank you, Eli. Was that your hand? Yeah.
So you mentioned Princeton and you mentioned Duke and Carolina. So what led you to pick the greatest college there is at Duke University?
Oh yeah.
Look at the shirt color, by the way. Got some Duke people. So.
I think there were a couple things that led me to, officially choose Duke. One thing was, I'm going to tell you guys to take your time in this process. Coach Janowski really was patient with me because I played football and basketball, so I couldn't really pick any weekend to just kind of fly down to Duke and visit campus. So my first time going down there, I think it was my junior year, the fall sometime. So While kids, the recruiting landscape at the time was very much, kids committing in sophomore year and the freshman year. I took my time and committed my junior year. Also because I didn't really know for sure what sport I wanted to play, and I was getting some interest to play football and lacrosse at schools like like Duke, for instance. So Coach Nasty was really good with me on time and patience. While I know a lot of other schools like Petramala was very direct with me from the start. Hey, why don't you come call me every week? And I was a kid. I was focused on being a kid and doing kid stuff. So I think Coach Nasty's patience was one thing. Obviously, Coach Nasty's a Long Island guy. I'm a Long Island guy, so we had that connection there. The academic piece was also a big deal for me. Another one was weather. I grew up in New York. Wasn't trying to do that anymore. So I got as far away as possible while getting a good education. Because I thought about Notre Dame, but I played in South Bend in May. It was like 44 degrees and hailing, so I'm glad I didn't choose to go there. But when I talk about that feeling of when you step on campus and you just know you belong somewhere, that was one thing that I constantly felt when I visited. I actually visited Duke last and committed on the spot. Called Coach Nasty on my way out and told Coach, hey, listen, I want to talk to you before I go. And I called my dad, who was still at the hotel, so I would go to the campus and walk around for a little bit just to feel things out. Told Coach Nasty that I was for sure going to be a blue level. When I was a junior in high school at the time, I felt like I had visited enough schools to know where my heart was, and I just felt at home, wearing blue, so that's why I made that decision.
Anybody else?
Who's the best goalie you played against?
Best goalie I played against, I feel like the goalies get better each season I play. I don't know if that's the goalie or it's me, but I played against Blaze Reardon, who he just won goal of the year. I think he's won it 3 or 4 times. He was always, I think when he first got to the league, he and I were in the same draft class. The first couple seasons, he was behind John Galloway, who was, a Hall of Fame goalie at Syracuse and, played pro for a lot of years and Team USA guy. As soon as Blaze got his shot to play, I don't think there's been a better goalie since then. So he's been, probably the best goalie in the league for the past 6 seasons. So, and that's probably the majority of my career. So I would probably say him.
Great question. Gardner, you got anything? No, you good. Anybody else? Y'all good? You do people back there good? Yeah, just want to say thank you. So let's give a huge Stars and Stripes thank you.